Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, the Lakers tried the Indiana thing again, except this time without blowing the giant lead. They lay a big beatdown on Portland Wednesday night and return optimism to Lakers Nation. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Always free, never behind a paywall. And, of course, Locked On Lakers on YouTube, screaming, rocketing towards 9,000 subscribers. We're so close. That's where you go to be part of the show, to be part of a great community that's popping up there. And, of course, on non-game nights in particular, you tend to get that thing a little bit early as well. When news breaks, also, too, go to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. That's where our first responses will always be. So Monday night's game was a disaster. The Lakers looked like they were going to run away with it at home against Indiana. Wednesday night, they tried basically the same formula, Andy, except this time without the fourth quarter collapse. And let me tell you something, that is a much better ending to the movie. The Lakers beat up on Portland. They win that game 128-109, and big games from LeBron, big games from Anthony Davis. A lot of just general happiness as the Lakers head out on the road now.
Well, you could feel them cognizant of the idea of, we cannot do this 2 games in a row. Just practically speaking, like they need every single win they can bank. As you mentioned, they're about to go on a very difficult road trip, and they already blew a very inexcusably winnable opportunity. So they maintain their energy in the fourth quarter. And look, they had energy in the fourth quarter that they lost against the Pacers. It just was very unfocused, often very dancing energy.
Whee!
This time around, they just focused all of that energy into the basketball and just making sure they offered Portland absolutely no opportunities to get back into these things. There's also some other fourth quarter elements that we can get into as well. But on a night where not having very last minute, it seemed like a surprise. No Lonnie Walker, no Troy Brown, both dealing with left foot soreness, that, maybe even acknowledging the Blazers had no Damian Lillard, no Josh Hart.
By the way, how the Lakers keep lining up these very specific injuries in pairs. Like they had 2 guys with like identical thumb surgeries. Now they have 2 guys missing games with left foot soreness. It's kind of cute.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to be under 500, you might as well be abdorbs.
Doing it together. You know what that fourth quarter was, Andy? It was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
They got through it, and look, you can't undo what happened on Monday. You can't go back and win that game again. You can't go back and replay it. You don't get half a victory. You don't, all that stuff. What you can do is come back out and play a better game on Wednesday. And the Lakers got off to a really bad start. They were very sluggish early, down I think 17-10 at one point. It wasn't going well, but they found some energy. They started moving a lot more. They got up and down the floor. Westbrook coming into the game, I think, picked up the pace a little bit. It wasn't so much that Russ was himself just a dominant force. He wasn't, but the pace picked up a little bit.
I actually really thought in the first half, in terms of a catalyst, where whether you're talking about energy or just sort of sparks, motivational plays, whatever. I actually thought it was Austin Reaves more than anybody
else. The
else.
Entire game,
but particularly though Reaves. In the first half, the shift from really sluggish offense, just nothing really getting going, to all of a sudden, eventually winning out the first quarter, which seemed incredibly improbable given how the thing started, to going on to win every quarter. It really felt to me like Austin making some of these plays as that first half went along, really helped right the ship for the Lakers, like on the court, but also just sort of in spirit. You know what I mean?
Well, he is a guy who he's not an energy player in the sense of what you sort of classically think of as often think of him as sort of low skilled, high movement, high energy, whatever, like where they produce purely based on hustle. And Reeves finished this game with 22 points on 7 of 10 shooting. He was 6 of 8 from the free throw line, which is a place he is getting to more frequently. Really does understand how to draw contact and does it very frequently now. But he had 5 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He did not turn the ball over. He had a steal, which turned into a bucket in the first half as the Lakers kind of got going defensively, to your point, Andy. But he's not a classic. I don't see him as a classic sort of hustle player because he's much more skillful than that. And I think over the last, I don't know, the month of November, really, we've seen much more of that. We had intended to talk about Reeves in some detail, and I don't think we've gotten around to it. But I guess now's as good a time as any. We'll get to LeBron, who had a big bounce back game. We'll get to AD, who continues to dominate. But like Reeves and what he's done in November has made a massive difference in the fortunes of the Lakers overall.
The comparison I'm going to make when you talked about Reeves not being like a pure energy player and like more skilled, it's not, I think, apples to apples at all in terms of the particular skill set, style of play, whatever. But I'm just talking about guys who often bring sort of that type of energy, but with, more definitive skill sets. It's almost like a prime Trevor Ariza or like maybe Josh Hart right now, like guys that you
Josh
can
Hart
count on.
Josh Hart is a nice comp because he kind of not a huge scorer, but fills up a box score, does a lot of stuff.
And can score. He can score. And there's a lot of different things that he can do well. Like Trevor was like that in his prime as well. Like, again, I'm not even talking
17 years ago.
Yes. Yes. Back when, he was in the same draft class as Shaq, you really saw that with Trevor, but
Jesus.
I know.
Season doesn't start until Trevor Reeves is back.
We both really like Trevor.
Oh, I love Trevor. I love Trevor. But like, God, what he became. Like, that was so mean what the Lakers did to him last year.
But like
mean.
But Austin, Caruso in certain respects.
Yes,
I know the jokes write themselves. White dudes, undrafted, scrappy. It was funny. Stu Lance said in this game, I want to find the close to exact quote. He was talking about Reeves, who I noted during this game, and it's something I've seen. We've seen a lot, especially over the last week or so with Austin Reaves, but he'll often dribble himself into the paint, and it looks like he's in trouble, and maybe even is in trouble, but he is really, really good at keeping his pivot foot planted in the paint, even surrounded by defenders, and he stays really calm and improvises and gets really creative and manages to either get the pass out to somebody else or wiggle his way towards the rim, usually drawing contact. Like, he finds different ways to do this. And Stu described him as the most deceptive ball handler on the Lakers, which I think is actually a pretty accurate description, but it's also a nice change of pace because usually it's Reeves's athleticism that's described as deceptive.
Yeah, and there was a great moment in the Spectrum broadcast today where Reeves was mic'd up and he was talking about dunking and all that kind of stuff. He's like, "Yeah, I can dunk." I forget who he was talking to. Oh, it was JTA, and JTA was like, "I didn't know you had that." Like, he was talking about the vert and the hops. He's like, "Oh yeah, I can do whatever kind of dunk you want." Like, he is reaching though a place where he's moving past can do effective things on the court because people just don't know who he is, or they discount him because he's hillbilly Kobe or all this other stuff, and like
goofy looking white boy.
Yeah, which look, you and I have made our careers on that, just being goofy looking white guys.
I thought you meant discounted.
Well, that too. But you look at what he's done in November. 11.5 points a game, 3.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, a couple assists. He's shooting, over 50% for the month. He's up around over 36% 3-point shooting. Those numbers were even a little bit higher in the last 10. where he's up about 39% from 3-point range, 14 points a game. Like, it's just, he just fills up box scores. And that's not even before you start getting into the little things, hustle plays, hitting the floor, finding the loose ball, getting the tap back, ending up on the front row, sitting on the laps of some lovely lasses. Like, this is one of those things, like when we talked about it going into the season, which of the stuff that the Lakers had, like the other guys on this roster, were going to step up in a way to become better than their sort of statistical profile going into the year would suggest they could be. I think Lonnie Walker is getting into that category. And I think Reaves is another guy who is absolutely kind of exceeding last year's output and providing the Lakers potentially with something bigger. If this continues, it gives the Lakers that middle class to some degree that they've lacked so badly over the last couple of years. We talked on Wednesday whether or not the Lakers have a LeBron James problem. If he does more of what he did against Portland, the answer goes from yes to no. We'll do that next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get from betonline.net the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer to esports. They got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, which of course you do, you are listening to one right now. And just thank you if we happen to be in your Spotify Wrapped. We saw a few people letting us know that. Very much appreciated. You can also find sports podcasts just like this one at BetOnline as well. Always the fastest, easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
On Wednesday, we asked whether or not the Lakers have a LeBron problem, and pointed out some of the ways in which they, in fact, do. On Wednesday night, LeBron at least tried to make a counterpoint to that. We did get a really good glimpse, Andy, of a reminder, even, I guess is a better word, of what it looks like when LeBron is dominant, when he is efficient. 31 points on 12 of 18 from the floor, including 6 of 8 from 3, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, only 2 turnovers. He had a block as well. Like, this was a lot more like it. The only thing he didn't do was get to the line. Only 3 trips to the free throw line, only made 1 of them. But overall, like, this was a much better game from LeBron, both in the numbers, but I also thought in kind of how the numbers got put up.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he had it going from outside. And there are occasionally games where I think LeBron having that 3-point shot going can be a double-edged sword, because he can fall in love with it and sometimes hunt it out in ways that I think break the flow of the offense. But this was not one of those games. There was not a single of the 8 threes that he took, and he made 6 of them, where it felt forced to me, or, it was like an unnecessary heat check where he was settling, anything like that. I actually thought LeBron...
One exception, when he, at the end of the first half, when he let the ball roll up to the 3-point line to try to get the 2 for 1 and just immediately picked it up and launched it. It was an air ball. That one wasn't great. But aside from that,
you know what? I stand corrected. I forgot about that one.
That was egregious.
Okay. Well, I did. It was so great on balance. I did forget about that moment. But there was also something that I thought was interesting that happened in the fourth quarter, because that's in particular where we had talked about the LeBron James problem. And this is a 1-game sample size, but AD took 7 shots to LeBron's 6. AD had 14 points in the fourth versus LeBron's 9. He also had a higher usage rate than LeBron in that fourth quarter, around 44 to around 36 for LeBron. LeBron led the team in assists in the fourth quarter with 4. And LeBron said after the game that, or after the Monday loss, I should say. He said this after the Portland win, but after the Monday loss, they had a lot of conversations just in general as a team, how everybody can be better. And he made a point of emphasis to make sure that AD is more involved in the fourth quarter, because he's too important to the team not to. He did say that he and AD did not have to have a conversation where he told AD, hey, don't defer to me as much. You don't need to just because I'm LeBron, just because of a perceived pecking order.
Look, we've done this for 4 years together. We won a championship. Because at this point, I think even if he did have to have that conversation with him, or they did mention it, to say it out loud, or it's so condescending to AD. It sort of undercuts, I think, AD as a leader and a star. The correct answer to tell us, I agree with LeBron, is no, I don't need to tell him that. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. He doesn't need me to tell him to go be Anthony Davis in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, whatever conversations happened, because LeBron said they did, and however they were delivered, this was something that was conscientious on LeBron's part. And ultimately, it's going to come from LeBron more than anybody else, because he's the guy that can get away with having the ball in his hands in crunch time more than anybody else on this team. Again, small sample size in this one win over Portland, but you liked what you saw in the fourth quarter with that sort of balance. And, I think it also it brings out the best in them offensively. LeBron talked about how they were much more deliberate in running their sets, even coming off Portland makes, or he said make or miss on their own part. It felt like they were just more organized and with purpose in this game offensively. And I think he's correct.
I think they moved quicker. And I think LeBron just generally did what he was going to do. Did he take some threes that were, early clock three, whatever? He's shooting the ball really well, feeling it. But what he didn't do was, stand, dribble, pump fake, kind of do that for 11 seconds and then launch the three. It was like top of the key, quick jab step, got the space, rise up, shoot. Stuff like that. It was aggressive moving to the basket, aggressively taking that little jumper, whatever it is. And, when we talk about the concessions that LeBron needs to make to age, to declining athleticism, to whatever it might be, I think that's one of them. The idea that you can allow a defense to really set up and focus just on you and still make whatever you want to happen. And I hope this is kind of the trend that keeps going forward, is whatever you're going to do, LeBron, do it quicker, go faster. And the team operates better when they go faster. But the biggest thing that LeBron has done, I think, to the offense, to the detriment of the Lakers throughout the year, is go too slow.
Yeah.
And this game, he did not go too slow. And you could tell the difference.
Yeah, in the meantime, too, defensively, he spent some time guarding Jeremy Grant, who had a big game. And the Lakers do not have a lot of options for somebody like Jeremy Grant. I tweeted out because he was getting his way early in this game a lot. And I'd said, sort of not including LeBron in this because I just didn't think they would put LeBron on him, certainly not early on, that Anthony Davis is the only guy they have to guard Jeremy Grant, but they also need him to guard Yusuf Nurkic. And before it's all said and done, they may need him to guard Anthony Simons. So without Troy Brown, especially, but even without Lonnie Walker as one of their stronger guards, you could really see the lack of wing depth on this team. And Jeremy Grant's having a terrific season so far this year. He's done a nice job picking up when Damian Lillard hasn't been available.
That's been very good.
I mean, you texted to me during the game. I think you're 100% right. Is there any non-all-star that the Lakers could use more than Jeremy Grant?
I just it is so glaringly obvious what the Lakers lack on this roster. And he is the embodiment of it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just thinking it's not fair to go out and choose, healthy Paul George or something. He'd be another nice fit, but non-all-star dudes, it's Jeremy Grant is the archetype of what the Lakers need. Big physical wing who can score some, play defense, provide you with a lot of, he's just a really good player at a really good height.
Yeah.
I mean,
he may be maybe a rung above sort of the prototype of what you're talking about. He's the A+ version of the non-all-star, but I understand exactly what you meant, and you're 100% right.
I just feel like you're a Lakers fan. You go to bed just dreaming of 6'8" men, like that you could somehow add to this team. I just wonder, like, if in the spirit of the holidays, the Blazers should be made by the league to donate Jeremy Grant to the Lakers, a less fortunate group, because oh my God, like we sit and we talk about Miles Turner and Buddy Hield and the difference they could make, like. Just dropping Jeremy Grant onto this roster would, I think, unlock 200 other things and might be worth 10 wins. Like, it would be that important.
No
but
argument.
Anyway, I can't do it. A bit of housekeeping, Andy. Let's get to one of the architects and the stars of arguably the best moment the Lakers have had this season. Got some really bad news on Wednesday, so we'll do that next. All right, so Andy, Matt Ryan. We'll get to Anthony Davis here, who had a great fourth quarter, as you mentioned when we were talking about LeBron. But poor Matt Ryan. We learned on Wednesday that the Lakers are going to waive him ahead of the December 15th trades can happen kind of thing before his contract becomes guaranteed. I'm not terribly surprised. After some early season utility, he has become a little less utilized. The
team has been over the last 10 or so games fine from behind the arc. Once you are fine, the need for Matt Ryan in the first place and the role for Matt Ryan in the first place decreases dramatically.
Yeah, guys are back on the floor. You know, you have Schroeder is back. There's sort of nowhere for him to. Now look, I thought it was nice. I think Shams, said in his thing, like, that that he had impressed, and all that kind of stuff, which is true. He had impressed, but hadn't impressed that much to the point where once he was on the team where he could stick. But I don't think fans are going to. The important part here is I think people are going to start linking this to the deadline. Opening up a roster spot to make a trade and all these. I can be honest with you. I don't think one has a lot to do with the other. I think they waived Ryan because they don't think he's going to play very much going forward. They like the flexibility of having an open roster spot broadly. That has been the way they've operated, and they don't want to pay him.
Yeah.
And I don't even mean that necessarily as a pejorative. Like, there's no reason to throw an extra $2 million when you consider the luxury taxes or whatever the number is to pay Matt Ryan for the rest of the year, if you're not going to pay him. Because
if you're not going to play him,
right? That's what I mean. If you're not going to play him, if you need to find a shooter, a one-dimensional shooter, quite frankly, if you need to find Matt Ryan again, I got a sneaking suspicion you'll be able to, like, both figuratively and literally. If you need Matt Ryan, you'll be able to go back and get him later in the year. So while I don't think this should encourage fans to believe that a trade is coming, like they got that roster spot opened up, I also don't think they should crush them for essentially trying to save money.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I don't think fans should think that a trade is imminent. Because, as you know, Dave McMenamin pointed out in confirming Shams's report from the Athletic and Stadium, they want flexibility for when guys become available on the 15th, which means you're going to be waiting a few weeks anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But, it sometimes takes a little bit of time for those type of deals to work themselves out. As it is, they're going to want to get, again, I know it's a recurring joke with this team, but they're going to want to get a more solid look at what they have, and hopefully with guys all accounted for who matter on a regular basis, and see what they have. Like Patrick Beverley, for example, is a prime candidate for a lesser version of a deal for a December 15th candidate. Like, if you're not making the massive move, whatever that is involving Russ, Patrick Beverley is the only contract they have of substance that they can move. They may want to get a look at, okay, Beverly's offense is obviously in the toilet, but defensively, he brings us something. Are we going to be okay without Patrick Beverly, depending on who we would be trading him for? Like, the stuff that he does that is positive, and there are tangible positives. Are we okay without that? And they get the best answer for that by hopefully seeing everybody together. And to your point correctly, none of this is going to involve Matt Ryan. So there is no reason to keep paying him to not play. And also they know not have a future. Forget with this team moving forward. Like, he doesn't likely have a future with this team the whole season.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. And
he got his big moment. He got his huge moment in the sun.
Yeah. And Lakers fans will, I don't even think this is hyperbole. Lakers fans kind of always remember that shot.
Yeah.
The one who was that? That was against the game that put into overtime against.
Unforgettable moment.
It took about 17 seconds to completely shatter my theory that Lakers fans will
all remember exactly where we were when that happened.
Matt Ryan indelibly seared into our brains.
No, but you know what? It's going to be remembered that it happened.
But I mean,
it's
some
cool
of the details.
For him.
Some of the details will be foggy.
Yeah, he's going to remember who they played against when it happened, and ultimately, it's great for him. And that's really awesome. Like he, I think, in a lot of ways, got about as much from this as he could have expected, other than a full year of security. He got, I think, really a lot out of this. He got paid over the last few months. New Orleans got paid over the last few months way more than he ever could have expected. He got that highlight reel moment. I'm sure he's going to have a nice thank you video the next time he comes back in.
If I can remember which game it was. I felt bad for him there, though, just because, I was trying to make this nice point and I couldn't remember the game. It's a lot of games. Hail fellow well met to Matt Ryan. And let's talk about AD here for a second, because this game, this fourth quarter, this game was kind of, I think, the formula. You mentioned a productive LeBron, but Anthony Davis with higher usage in the fourth. I think in the same way that LeBron was quicker in what he was doing, I think the Lakers were more creative and better in how they got AD moving, and got him in space and had him coming off screens and set up stuff to make it so you just didn't have like Yusuf Nurkic leaning on him in the post or something like that. So this is the AD and the formula for the Lakers that they're going to need: 27 points, 12 rebounds, 3 block shots. He was a beast on that side of the ball. Got to the line 9 times, made 8 of them. The Lakers as a team, between Reaves getting the line and Davis getting the line as much as they are a pretty decent free throw shooting team now. So all of that stuff was super encouraging. And, Davis continuing to perform in this way. If they can get LeBron kind of now in that direction, they have a shot. They've got a shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You and I were talking about before the show started, they have been playing better the last few weeks. Like how much better and what it means in the grand scale of this season, and the grand scheme of trying to get themselves in the position of getting into the playoffs and trying to make some noise. I don't think we've learned enough about that yet, but they clearly have been playing better. And even the Indiana game, as incredibly disappointing and a gut punch that was 3 weeks ago, they would not have been able to play well enough to build a 17-point lead to blow.
Yep.
Like, they were not capable of that 3 or 4 weeks ago. They controlled 3 quarters and a little bit of change of that game against a solid opponent. And they really controlled it. They weren't capable of that a few weeks ago. So they are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It just, how far can they actually take that direction is,
And did they kind of, again, and with the Indiana game included there, did they make the hole too big? Again, you win 5 of 6, you drop that other game, you win again on Wednesday, you're 4 games under 500. Now you head onto the road, and we're going to spend a little more time on the on Friday's show talking about the road trip, and what is ahead for the Lakers, because the rest of the schedule, particularly for December, is really difficult. The home games they have are upcoming are Boston and Denver, and then the rest of it's basically all on the road. In starting with Milwaukee on Friday. It's they may get Milwaukee may have Middleton back for that game. Philly may have Harden back by the time that game rolls around. I think he's expected to play on the 5th, and that would obviously have him back there. So, what they see now, like, they are playing legitimately better, and they have at least given them, I think, themselves a shot to have a 500 trip. I don't want to say to go over 500, but a 500 trip for any team is a good trip. They just, to not lose ground, I think would be a big deal for this team. We'll see how it goes. So again, we'll spend a little more time on this on Friday's show. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to catch the show before it goes up on the audio version, and also, again, to participate with a great and growing community there. And we appreciate all the support, and we'll see everybody on Friday.